So basically, when you start making more and more excuses, like for instance, she's had trouble with math or he's had a long practice this evening, things like that, in order to cover up and provide an excuse for them, we're enabling the behavior of irresponsibility, and we're basically bailing them out. Now, there's circumstances sometimes when, it may be appropriate, but if it's an ongoing behavior and the child begins to depend upon that, well, my mom's going to save me, my dad's going to save me, my mom can make a phone call, my dad can make a phone call and clear this up. Now we're enabling that bad behavior. Let's go on to number 3. Number 3 reason why you don't want to encourage or enable your teen's bad behavior. Enabling doesn't encourage your teen to have respect for you. Now, this is a big problem. Teens already have a problem with authority, so it's easy for them to fall into a disrespectful pattern of behavior. But when you enable them, it reinforces their desire to not respect you. And I know that seems counterintuitive because it seems like, well, if I give them what they want, then they're going to like me more and respect me more. No, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Children feel loved and secure when they're raised within a well-defined and consistent structure at home. That's when they feel the most loved and secure. When you let your teenager get away with bad behavior, they may become confused. Now, I don't really like the wording of this, but it's basically correct. When you let them get away with bad behavior, now it's almost like giving them permission to move the boundary, move the goalpost. And then the next time when they behave that way, they want to throw it up in your face. Well, it wasn't a problem last time. Well, it wasn't a problem last time because you gave in. So anytime you give in, you're giving up ground. You're allowing them to move the goalpost, and then it's going to be extremely difficult to pull it back in. They may even feel unsafe or lose trust in you. Now, again, I know this probably sounds counterintuitive, but it's not when you think about it. Because we tell our kids that we love them, we want to protect them, we want to keep them safe, and then we turn around and give them permission or don't hold them responsible for some bad behavior that was dangerous or could have gotten them into a lot of trouble. Well, now that's very confusing for them. Well, I thought you cared about me. I thought I could trust that you always had my best interest, but yet you let me do this thing and I didn't even get chewed out for it. So it becomes confusing for them. Their respect for you plummets when that happens because now you're not consistent. The thing that they need the most in their life is consistency, and you're not being consistent. Subsequently, they may act out even more, perhaps in some very abusive ways. Now, I know that sounds kind of weird, but a child that is pushing the boundaries and getting away with it may push the boundaries so far that it turns into an abusive behavior. Some of that is wanting the attention. Maybe at one point you were setting boundaries and you were disciplining and you were holding them accountable, and that was comforting to them, and now you're not doing it. And so, well, maybe if I start cutting myself, they'll implement some boundaries and some protective measures. Maybe if I start staying out 2 or 3 hours past curfew, they'll start implementing some boundaries and act like they care about me. You see what I mean? So let's not even go down that road. Let's practice consistency, and let's hold them accountable and do the things that we should be doing as parents. The enabling is not helping. It is not helping. Let's go on. I think that was number 4. Let's see here. No, actually, that was number 3. So not only your teen's respect can begin to dissipate for you, but also their self-respect can suffer when you enable. It's hard to respect yourself when you don't do what you know is right. So when the kid is not doing what they know is right, they actually lose some self-respect for themselves. This is a dangerous spiral because they get into a scenario of thinking, well, I'm already a bad kid, so what does it matter if I just do the next bad thing? I'm already going to get detention, so I might as well just go ahead and get into that fight that I've been wanting to get into because I'm already getting detention. So it may be the same thing. I'm already smoking marijuana, so what's the big deal with me just going ahead and trying meth? So those are some more extreme circumstances, but you can probably relate to some of that feeling. I know I can. Whenever I was in my addiction, I told myself that all the time. I'm already lost, so what does it matter if I go ahead and do this next thing because I'm already in bad shape anyway? What's the problem with just going the next step? That is a dangerous and spiraling behavior that you don't want your teenagers to get into. Number 5, enabling fulfills your own need, not your teens. Now, this is important that you understand this. This may be a hard truth to face, but by enabling your teen, you only give yourself what you need, staying within your comfort zone. Now, consider this. If you start setting boundaries, will it be harder for you or will it be harder for them? We have to be honest with ourselves. It's so much easier to enable, isn't it? It's just so much easier. It's less confrontational, less conflict. It's just at the moment, it's so much easier, but further down the road, it actually makes things way harder because when you have that come to Jesus moment and you realize you haven't been setting boundaries and disciplining and having consequences for bad behavior, now you try to implement it and oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end because, dad or mom is now holding me accountable. So it's best just not even to get to that point. If you're already there, don't give up hope. We're going to help you try to reverse that pattern. But once you do reverse it, you want to be consistent so that you don't have to, cycle through this over and over again. Number 6, enabling does not help you control your teen. Now, I know a lot of people, might think that it does, especially if you're in a single parent, if you're a single parent situation, or maybe the kids are, sometimes with mom, sometimes with dad. It may at the moment, giving them what they want, make you the nice parent and the other one the bad parent or whatever. But believe me, it's not going to end up well because they're smart. They're going to figure this out very quickly and they're going to play you guys against each other. So the only person, here's something key that you need to remember. The only person you can control is yourself. That's it. But you can certainly teach your teenager. What do I mean by that? By setting the boundaries and enforcing them, you're teaching them. They have to choose if they want to respect them or experience the consequences. They have to choose if they want to respect the boundaries or accept the consequences. And this goes back to holding them accountable. You can give them adult type conversation and adult type scenarios, especially if they're wanting to go do adult type things, but then they have to realize there's going to be adult type consequences if they exceed the boundaries, break the rules, or be disrespectful. It just one's going to go with the other. They're not mutually exclusive. This teaches the teenager responsibility, something that they need to be learning anyway. Now, having said all of that, these are 6 reasons why you want to stop enabling your teenagers' bad behavior. It is very important that you begin going down that road. Once you've done that, you're going to find spending time with your teenager is so much more enjoyable. And honestly, they will too. And like I said, a lot of these things are going to be hard to implement in the beginning. You're going to get resistance. You're going to get pushback. They're going to freak out. They're going to say, I want to go live with dad. I want to go live with mom, whatever. But The reality is, if you stay strong and parent on, they're going to get comfortable with the consistency, and they're going to realize at some point that it's all being done out of love for them. And then you can begin to work on the relationship in some much more enjoyable ways. You can begin to enjoy spending time with your teenager and getting to know them as a teenager. One of the things that you need to understand is that your teenager is not your child. I'll say that again. Your teenager is not your child. When your child became a teenager, they became a different type of person. And we have a tendency to look through, rose-colored glasses and still see the little child down here that behaves in childish ways. But a teenager is not a child. They're also not an adult. They're a teenager, and teenagers act certain ways and we have certain guidelines and rules of dealing with a teenager. But when we're still applying the rules that we were applying when they were a child, we get all of the wrong type of reactions from the teenager. So I'm gonna touch on a couple of more things, and then we'll wrap up this series 1, because I don't want these to become long and hard to listen to. I want them to be inspirational, and I want you to be able to get some good things out of each one of them. Maybe some hard things and maybe some easy things, maybe some difficult to hear things and maybe some eye-opening and really fun things out of these. And so one of the things that I'm going to wrap up with here, you heard me say a little bit ago, or a version of it. You want to get to a point to where you're enjoying your teenager, okay? You also need to realize they are not you. They are not you. They have different interests. They have different desires. They're not you. The things that you like, they may not like, and the things that you don't like, they may very well like. And that has to be okay, because that's saying it's okay for you to be an individual. You don't have to be exactly like me. Now, here's a key thing that will help you throughout every single one of these series, and every single time you are potentially coming up upon a conflict with your teenager. You need to remember this. You need to remember and practice this each time, okay? Every single time. Detach yourself from their outcome, okay? We get so wrapped up in what their outcome is going to be if they continue to mess up, if they continue to go down the path that you know that they shouldn't be going down. We get so wrapped up in what their outcome is going to be that it's almost like it's our outcome. Well, guess what? It's not our outcome. It's their outcome. So detach yourself from their outcome. When you do this, it is so much easier and so less confrontational to have a serious conversation with your teenager. Let me kind of make up a scenario here. Let's see. I'll talk about Xavier, okay, my 16-year-old. Son, you have an examination coming up, you have a flight test coming up, and you've told me that your entire career path is in jeopardy here if you don't do well on this flight test coming up with your instructor. Now, I know how much you love playing video games, and I know how much you love hanging out with your older brothers, and that's a good thing. I'm happy that you have things that you love. But what you've told me is that it's very important to you to do well on this exam. Now, what's going to happen if you keep playing the video games and you keep hanging out with your older brothers and you're not spending the time you need to spend? You're going to fail this test. And then when you fail this test, you're not going to be able to take it again for a year. And that's going to set your career back, and all the money and time that you've invested is going to have been wasted because you didn't take the necessary steps to do well on this test. Now, at that point, I can do two things. I can include myself in their outcome, at which time I'm now going to get mad, because now I'm part of the outcome. It's a poor reflection on me. Am I doing my job as a parent? Is somebody going to look down on me because I let him fail? That's including myself in their outcome. Or I can detach myself from their outcome and simply allow the outcome to impact them. Okay, I've told you what's going to happen. You understand what's going to happen. I am no longer going to baby you. I'm no longer going to remind you. It's up to you to do the right thing. If you fail the test, then you're going to have to deal with the consequences of failing the test. Love you. See you later. That's the end of the conversation. It doesn't need to continue past that point because I've removed myself from their outcome. We need to begin to practice this in every situation that we can. It will create conversations, not confrontations. It will create less stress on us and quite honestly, less stress on them. And then a couple of times after they have to endure the consequences of their bad choices and they see that you just went on and had dinner or watched TV or played with one of the other kids or whatever, and you didn't get all wrapped around the axle because they didn't listen to you. You're just basically content to allow their outcome to be their outcome and you're going on with your life. Then they're going to go, okay, well, he did remind me and I made the wrong choice. And so now I'm going to have to deal with those consequences. It's not a big deal to him, and it shouldn't be a big deal to him because it was on me. Now they're taking personal responsibility for their outcome. So remove yourself from the consequences of their actions by removing yourself from their outcome. Let the consequences of their actions do the teaching. Oftentimes, when my kids are doing something that's going to have clear consequences, especially negative, I don't even have to come up with any punishment for the wrong behavior because the consequences of them making wrong choices is enough. Now, you can rub it in their face a little bit, I guess, if it makes you feel better, but oftentimes my kids have come to me after messing up really bad, come to me and they said, what's going to be my punishment? Because they know they're going to have consequences for bad decisions and bad behavior. And I'll say, don't you think the outcome is enough? And they'll kind of put their head down and go, yeah, it's pretty bad. Well, then that's the punishment. I don't need to pile on any more punishment. That's the punishment. And now that teaches them a real life scenario. Okay, you run your tires until they're bald and you don't ever buy new ones. Guess what? They're going to blow out on the highway in the middle of a rainstorm. And if you don't die in the accident, you're at least going to be stuck out there calling AAA or a buddy or a friend or somebody trying to find a tire in the middle of the night. And you're probably going to miss the wedding that you were the bridesmaid in or whatever, or the best man. So those consequences for that bad decision of not replacing your tires when you knew you should have are enough. You don't need somebody else to come along and rub your face in it real hard because those consequences are enough. The key is remove yourself from the consequences so that you maintain control of your emotions. You don't have to get all stressed out. And in fact, you're sitting back going, there you go. Life lesson. Wish you would have made a better choice, buddy. This steak sure is good. So, you're just living life on your own. You don't have to get all involved in their outcomes, and it's oftentimes much better if you don't. I'm going to conclude this first of 6 segments at this point. Please let me know what you think. Am I doing a good job? Am I not doing a good job? Do you want me to get more specific, less specific? Give me some comments, some feedback, and we'll take it. I'll start preparing session 2 here in the next couple of days. Thank you. God bless.